Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian Donnelly. I'm an expert in distilled spirits with 9 years experience in the alcoholic beverage industry, and my goal is to educate consumers more about the alcoholic beverages they enjoy so they can make better shopping and drinking decisions. Today I'm going to be talking about 3 Reposado tequilas from parent company Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman is also the parent company for the American whiskey brands Jack Daniel's Tennessee Whiskey, Old Forester Kentucky Bourbon, and Woodford Reserve Kentucky Bourbon. Today I'm going to be tasting El Jimador Reposado, Herradura Reposado, Herradura Double Barrel Reposado. I'm going to be comparing the official tasting notes from the brand, from what I think these products taste like, and then I'm going to check the average retail price in my home market and let you guys know if I think these products are worth the money. Let's get into it. The first product is the El Jimador Reposado. Now here is what the current packaging for El Jimador looks like, but soon the brand will have a new package change for the entire brand. I've gotten the opportunity to see what the new packaging looks like, and it looks really, really good. It looks really clean. I'll put a picture up on the screen. But for now, here's what the brand looks like. But for now, here's what the packaging looks like. And then you can see the embossing of the El Jimador here. And again, the current packaging doesn't look bad, but the new packaging looks really good, really premium. If you're unfamiliar with El Jimador Tequila, it is the lower brand to Herradura Tequila, which we'll talk about here in a second. It's a tequila distilled from 100% Blue Weber agave, and it's meant to be an entry-level tequila in terms of both price point and flavor profile compared to its premium or super premium sister brand, Herradura. El Jimador was created in 1996 and is one of the 10 largest tequila brands by volume in the world. And the whole point behind the brand was to make a 100% agave tequila available to the masses, providing a pretty good bang for your buck tequila at a price point that was very accessible and very inclusive to all drinkers. And because of its price point and flavor profile, this is an ideal product for mixing and for cocktails. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about Reposado tequilas, and so the El Jimador Reposado was aged 2 months in charred American white oak barrels. The most important brand facts for this product is the El Jimador Reposado is double distilled from 100% Blue Weber agave, and it is aged 2 months in charred American white oak barrels. All right, let's give it a taste. I have a brand new bottle here. I'm going to be referencing the official tasting notes from the brand. So the color is described as light, warm amber. I think it's a pretty accurate color description, especially for a Reposado at this price point. The aroma is described as cooked agave with notes of cinnamon and vanilla. I would say it's a really nice nose. Relatively subtle, but I think very representative of this price point. And again, we'll kind of reference pricing at the end. I would say this is a very accurate aroma description. There's a nice pronounced flavor of cooked agave while also having those kind of secondary flavors of vanilla and cinnamon that you're getting from the barrel. They're very well integrated. I would say the agave is definitely still the dominant flavor, but those barrel flavors are relatively pronounced secondary flavors, and they provide a nice supporting aroma. The taste on the palate is described as vanilla and spiced with balanced citrus and a hint of caramel. So let's give it our first taste. This is going to be bottled at 80 proof for 40% ABV. This is the first spirit I've had on my palate today, but the alcohol is pretty well integrated. Vanilla and spice. I would say the vanilla and spice are definitely the dominant flavors on the palate. I'm still getting a little alcohol, but again, this is my first sip of any spirit today, so that might just, that might not be reflective of the product itself. Vanilla and spice. I'm not quite getting the citrus flavors, maybe a little bit of caramel. There's definitely barrel flavors there, and there's definitely agave flavors there. I think the second sip is going to be very revealing. So let's go ahead and revisit this. Oh yeah, a lot more flavor on that second sip. The booze or the alcohol is almost non-existent. Nothing but tequila flavor. My mouth has become accustomed and acclimated to the alcohol. So I'm definitely getting vanilla and spice. I could see some very subtle citrus, but it's really not pronounced. And a hint of caramel. I'm not quite getting the caramel barrel flavors. I would say it's pretty linear with those kind of vanilla and spice flavors. Again, I think this product is very representative of a well-done entry-level 100% agave tequila. The flavors are enjoyable. They're pretty well integrated, but nothing stands out. No flavor really outshines the others, and nothing is really kind of overly noteworthy or remarkable. The finish is described as lingering hints of caramel. I would say that more or less is true. I would say it's got a very short finish, and I would say the finish is more along the notes of barrel flavors as opposed to a kind of finish of cooked agave. So again, the flavor profile of this product is relatively simple, and the flavors are kind of one-dimensional and very linear, and that's not a knock on this product. I think this product, again, is very representative of its price point. We'll talk about price here in a second, where the flavors are enjoyable. There are agave flavors here, there are barrel flavors here, but they're all relatively subtle, and it's almost like they're toned down a little bit. A lot of people want to know what's the difference between the El Jimador brand and the Herradura brand if they're both owned by the same company and produced at the same distillery, but are two remarkably different price points. And I have been told by employees from Brown-Forman that every part of the production process remains the same, except the agaves used for Herradura in traditional stone and brick ovens, whereas the agave for the El Jimador brand is cooked in an autoclave, which is obviously going to be faster. It's going to be more cost effective, which is going to allow the parent company Brown-Forman to hit a very specific price point for this product. Again, the El Jimador brand is going to be very much reliant on hitting a target price point that is meant to be entry level and is meant to be accessible and inclusive to a wide variety of drinkers, whereas the Herradura brand is a super premium brand, is a more or less a luxury brand, and is going to be catered to more affluent consumers and consumers that have perhaps a more advanced tequila palate and bigger expectations for their tequila. All right, let's talk about price. So I'm based here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I'm going to be quoting average retail price for my home market of Oklahoma, but please check your local liquor store for accurate pricing. Products are priced differently in every single market. So in my home market, a 750 milliliter bottle of the El Jimador Reposado is going to retail somewhere between $24 and $25. And do I think that's worth the money? I definitely do. As I mentioned earlier, I think this product is very representative of its price point, and so I think this product is worth $24 to $25 for a Reposado tequila. If I remember correctly, I believe the El Jimador Silver and the El Jimador Reposado are line priced. So again, they're not upcharging you for the 2 months in barrel. And as I've mentioned before, I am a Reposado drinker. I think it's a nice sweet spot if you want a little bit of influence from the barrel, but mostly primary agave flavors. So again, it's that kind of Goldilocks tequila for me. So for $24 to $25, I think this product is definitely worth the money. And this is, a pretty accessible price point for 100% agave tequila. I'm filming this in May 2025, so I'm going to be quoting potential pre-tariff pricing. I don't know what the world entails when it comes to imports from Mexico, particularly potential tariffs on tequila. So I'm quoting pre-tariff pricing. But for $24 or $25, I think the El Jimador Reposado is definitely worth the money. And I think if you're looking for an entry-level 100% agave tequila, or perhaps a tequila that you're going to be making mixed drinks and cocktails, I think this product would be absolutely perfect for that occasion. The next product I'm going to talk about is the Herradura Reposado. It's an iconic square bottle with the horseshoe. The brand Herradura is challenging for Americans because it's got the silent H and the double rolled R. And again, I don't pretend to always be able to pronounce it correctly, so you will often hear this brand anglicized as Herradura. really nice premium packaging, and I really like the kind of short squatter bottles. Herradura Reposado is credited with being the first Reposado tequila available commercially, created in 1974. And compared to the silver, which is aged 45 days in barrel, the Reposado is aged 6 months in charred American white oak barrels, and those barrels are going to have a medium toast and a medium level char before being bottled at 80 proof or 40% ABV for the United States market. Previously, I made a video where I covered the 3 silver tequilas from Brown-Forman: El Jimador Silver, Herradura Silver, and Herradura Blanco. And in that video, I walked through the production process for the Herradura brand, because it's a brand that is very traditional and does everything the right way. And I think nowadays it is very important to highlight that. So I'm going to cover that same material again right now. Tequila Herradura is distilled at the last tequila producing hacienda in Mexico. And if you're unfamiliar with what makes something legally an hacienda, it has to follow several different criteria. I talk about that a bit more in detail on an article that I wrote for my website, and I'll link that below in the description. I'm going to be referencing some notes regarding the production process for the brand. So, Tequila Herradura is a ultra premium tequila made from 100% blue weber agave with no added sugar. Casa Herradura maintains millions of agave plants carefully harvested once they've reached their peak maturity. The agave is grown in the volcanic lowlands of Amatitan. You'll often hear the terms lowlands as an anglicized description for El Valle. On this channel, I typically prefer to use the Spanish terms El Valle for what is often called the lowlands, and Los Altos for what is often called the highlands. The agave is grown in the volcanic soil of El Valle in the region around Amatitan. Where the agave grows is important as the flavor takes on the characteristic of the soil. Tequila Herradura's signature taste is a classic example of a lowland-style tequila, or a tequila from El Valle, spicy, herbaceous, and complex. The agave is harvested by jimadors, who patiently wait 7 to 8 years on average for the plants to become perfectly ripe before harvesting their piñas or cores. And the term piñas is used for describing the agave core because once the skilled jimador trims off all the parts of the agave plant that are not needed for cooking, fermentation, and distillation, the agave core resembles a pineapple, so the Spanish word piña is often used rather than agave core. Jimadors harvest the agave plants with coas. That's C-O-A. The coa is a jimador's tool for harvesting the piñas, a curved, sharpened blade on a long wooden handle. The process requires both skill and strength from the jimadors. And if you're unfamiliar with what a coa looks like, I'll put a picture up on the screen. Every day, the harvested agave is hand-stacked in traditional clay ovens, which can hold up to 40 tons of agave. The agave is slowly steamed for up to 26 hours until the starches are turned into sugars and then cooled in the ovens for an additional 9 hours. After the oven, the cooked agave is milled twice. This produces a rich, sweet liquid known as agave nectar, or mosto. This sugary liquid is later fermented and then distilled into the final tequila. Casa Herradura uses a 100% natural fermentation process. There are over 16 different species of fruit trees on the hacienda grounds, and they add their own unique strain of airborne yeast to the open fermentation tanks. So I think this is an area where I really want to highlight open air, natural, or ambient yeast fermentation. Open air natural fermentation is something that is typically never seen in large-scale tequila production. It's very common in mezcal. You hear a lot about ambient yeast and natural fermentation in the wine world. You almost never hear about it in the tequila world, especially for brands like Herradura that are produced on such a large scale. This is really cool, and I think really sets the brand apart. Most brands are inoculating their must with some sort of commercial strain of yeast so that they can have consistency in their fermentation process before distillation. So to have something like this where you have that almost like terroir aspect, where this product, the fermentation, becomes uniquely tied to the sense of place that is the distillery at Casa Herradura. The tequila is double distilled, and the heads and tails are separated, preserving what's called the heart, or the best cut of the distillate. Only the best alcohol for a better quality product that preserves its complex flavor. If you're unfamiliar with heads and tails, so in the process of distillation, there are certain other kind of volatile compounds that are generated, and they and they appear at the beginning of the distillate and at the end of the distillate. So brands will cut what they call the heads, the first part of the distillate, and the tails, which contain these unpleasant volatile compounds that are generated during distillation, and that leaves what's called the heart, or the center cut of the distillate, which is going to have the best tasting distillate. Casa Herradura uses traditional alembic stills, also known as pot stills, to help retain each flavor note. Each batch of tequila is meticulously reviewed by a panel of tequila experts to ensure it is up to the brand's world-renowned standards. The Reposado is aged for 6 months in 55-gallon charred American white oak barrels. And as I mentioned earlier, those barrels are going to receive a medium toast as well as a medium char. Herradura is the only tequila that produces its own barrels, giving the tequila a more robust signature flavor. So if you know anything about parent company Brown-Forman, they prioritize their barrels. The Louisville-based company historically owned and operated 2 cooperages in the United States. Historically, they operated a cooperage in Louisville where that produced barrels for Old Forester Bourbon and Woodford Reserve Bourbon. Unfortunately, that cooperage has been closed recently with some of the cuts that the company has done. And then they operated a second cooperage in Alabama that produced barrels for just the Jack Daniel's brand. And then I believe they operate, I don't know if it's considered a cooperage, but they operate a barrel facility in Jalisco, which services barrels. I don't think they're building barrels from scratch, but I think, you know, with all these American whiskey brands, Jack Daniel's, Old Forester, Woodford Reserve, that are only using those barrels once by law, then a lot of those barrels go to Mexico, and perhaps they might be retoasted or recharred, repaired, rebuilt. And so I believe they have some sort of barrel facility in Jalisco that services barrels specifically for the El Jimador and Herradura brands. Finally, all Herradura is estate bottled, and the signature horseshoes are carefully hand applied. If you know anything about horseshoes and luck, then you would know that the horseshoe on the front of the bottle is turned upside down, which could be considered unlucky. But when you turn the bottle upside down to serve yourself or serve some friends, the message is luck is given to those that pour, and more importantly, pour Herradura Tequila. All right, enough talking about it. Let's taste it. And this might be hard to tell on camera, but that beautiful color is just a little darker and a little more recognizable than the shade of color from the El Jimador, which I guess should be no surprise. Again, I'm going to be referencing the tasting notes from the brand, and the color is going to be described as rich amber with shades of copper from over 6 months in American white oak barrels. And I would definitely say that is an accurate color description. Compared to the El Jimador Reposado, as soon as I poured this, the aroma is kind of already jumping out of the glass. So now they describe the aroma as warm notes of anise, fruit, and spices come through the central aroma of cooked agave. Much bigger nose, way bigger nose compared to the El Jimador Reposado. I mean, you're definitely getting lot of cooked agave flavors, but you're getting some very strong aromas of fruit and spice. I would say, I'm not sure if I'm getting the anise. You could maybe say it's in there, but definitely like cooked agave flavors, still the dominant flavor, but right underneath in a very nice supporting role, but not quite the dominant flavor, is that fruit and spice. So nice balance between all 3 flavors. Now the flavors on the palate are described as surprisingly smooth. Vanilla and butter are peppered in the sweet cooked agave. Let's give it our first taste. Oh yeah. Good, really nice flavor on the palate. Smooth, like smooth often gets overused. Smooth, when I think of smooth, I think of drinkability. But this, I would say, it's certainly very pleasant to drink, but there's more complexity where I almost don't want to use this word smooth. I feel like smooth kind of sells this short. Vanilla, there is that little subtle butter, but you're definitely getting vanilla, a little pepper, but it's sweet cooked agave and vanilla. So like cooked agave and barrel. I would say that is a very accurate description of this first sip. And again, tequila is always like a spectrum. And so just on this first sip, it kind of sits very nicely right in the middle, 50-50. Cooked agave, barrel flavors. So let's revisit it. Oh yeah. I would say still, not a big change, sip 1 to sip 2. Again, my mouth is already kind of acclimated to the alcohol. The alcohol in this, against the same proof, 80 proof for 40% ABV here in the United States, and it's very well integrated. And I would say we're still in that kind of 50-50 ground. Cooked agave, barrel flavors. And in this case, I would say that barrel flavor is very much vanilla. There's not really that spice that I kind of got, like baking spice you get from the barrel. I'm not quite getting that on the palate. There's a little of that pepper undertone that supports the sweet agave, but a lot of times when tequila is described as peppery, it's almost more herbaceous, like black pepper or green bell pepper. But I would say sweet cooked agave. Again, this is El Valle agave, so there is going to be a bit of earthiness to this. Don't forget that the brand is exclusively using agave sourced from El Valle, which is going to be that stereotypical spicy herbaceous flavor profile. I would say on this you have a good balance of the strong agave flavors with the flavors from the barrel, and there's strong barrel flavors here. And I think, you know, again, Brown-Forman specializes in American whiskey. Jack Daniel's, Old Forester, Woodford Reserve. These are brands that are incredibly barrel forward. And for the American palate that normally drinks bourbon, that normally drinks Tennessee whiskey, that normally drinks rye, I think drinking Brown-Forman tequilas, especially Herradura, with the way that they strategically use their barrels to influence the final flavor profile, I think it's very well done, and it's going to be very appealing to the American palate. I drink a lot of bourbon, a lot of rye, a lot of Tennessee whiskey, but I also love tequila and other agave spirits. And so I've always found the Herradura brand is a nice sweet spot for me because there is very strong barrel flavors, but they're done well. And they're done with a bit of finesse where it's not just this bomb of vanilla or bomb of flavors. Again, these are going to be additive-free tequilas. And for me, it is always that Goldilocks of agave flavors with barrel flavors. So let's touch on the finish. The finish is described as smooth and sweet with a hint of spice to keep things interesting. I would definitely say smooth and sweet, much longer finish than you get with El Jimador. And you know, again, that kind of sweetness, and when I say sweetness, I'm talking about like roasted agave sweetness. Again, there's no added sugar. And a little bit of spice from that barrel, you know, the little lingering barrel flavors. I would say it's very accurate. Again, this is very much barrel and agave, perfect Goldilocks, 50-50, very well integrated, very well done, very enjoyable for someone that drinks a lot of tequila but also drinks a lot of bourbon. And for me, that's why I love well done, super premium Reposado tequilas. All right, let's talk about pricing. In my home market of Oklahoma, this product is going to retail somewhere between $48 and $52 for a 750 milliliter bottle. Is that worth the money? So we're getting to almost $50 or $50 for a 750 milliliter bottle of super premium Reposado. I think this is definitely worth it. And let me tell you why. As I mentioned earlier, this product is a perfect bridge product for someone who is already drinking both bourbon and tequila. They always say the añejo is the bridge product for the bourbon drinker, someone that wants all barrel or a ton of barrel. Again, right now we're at 50-50 barrel and agave flavors. When you get to the añejos, they're a lot more, you know, 70-30. You know, it's almost all barrel flavors with kind of subtle undertones of agave flavors. So for me, the Reposado, we're still 50-50. I think that is the perfect sweet spot for your bourbon drinker. Because if your bourbon drinker likes tequila, they still want some agave flavors. And so, again, maybe you have tried some of these entry-level tequilas like El Jimador. You think, hey, these are perfect for cocktails. These are perfect for mixed drinks. But it's simple and to the point, and I now want something with more flavor, with more complexity, something I can enjoy neat, something I can enjoy maybe with just a little bit of soda. And so I think that's where you get that trade up from Jose Cuervo or El Jimador to Herradura. And again, Herradura is competing in that kind of super premium price point with Don Julio and with Patron and with a ton of other brands. And so, there's a lot of competition at this price point, and there's more and more brands that are appearing every single day. And so I think for the American palate, and again, I live here in the United States, I'm speaking specifically for the kind of stereotypical American palate. I think this brand is definitely worth the money. Again, if you want that beautifully well integrated combination of barrel flavors and agave flavors from a brand with a ton of history, I usually try to stay away from the word authentic or authenticity because I feel like it is often overused or perhaps misused or misappropriated. But I think this brand has a great lineage. And yes, it is owned by an American company, but I think it perfectly does cater to the American palate, and it's very enjoyable to drink, and there's good complexity on here, and there's good transparency, and there's a high quality production process to back it up. So I think if you like Reposado tequilas and you're ready to level up the tequila that you're drinking, for $50, this product is definitely worth the money. The final product I'm going to talk about is also a Reposado from the Herradura brand, but it's their twice barreled Reposado. So this is the brand's equivalent of a single barrel program or a store pick program, where, I'll explain in more detail the production behind this, but you can already see the horseshoe on the front is different than the previous bottle I just showed you. And then look at this, is an Emmitt Smith pick. So for anybody that's a Cowboys fan, Brown-Forman had an official partnership with Emmitt Smith. This is a pick he did that I got a chance to pick up a bottle, and it's brand new. I've never opened it. I'm very excited to try it for the first time on camera. So again, the difference in packaging from the regular Reposado to the twice barrel Reposado is very subtle. So the official description from the brand is the double barrel program gives customers the opportunity to select a personal exclusive expression of the best tequila Herradura by the barrel. I'm going to read the label for the bottle I have. So tequila double barrel Reposado, 100% blue agave tequila aged 11 months in lightly charred oak barrels, then matured for an additional month in a virgin toasted oak barrel specially crafted for Emmitt Smith, number 22, the famous football player, if you're not familiar. This is barrel number 2812, bottle number 108, and this is selected on 3/16/21. So again, same bottling proof, but you can see a slight manipulation on barrels, and my understanding of that description means that there's also going to be a different batch size at bottling. So again, I have never tried this particular bottle of the double barrel Reposado, so I'm very excited to try it for the first time on camera, and I expect a noticeable difference than the previous product I just tasted. All right, brand new bottle. Ooh, even the screw top lid feels like a little heavier and a little more premium. Oh yeah, I mean, this may not show up on camera, but you can immediately see there's just a slight darker color than you got on the previous Reposado, and I guess that shouldn't be surprising. I don't have official tasting notes, but pretty subtle nose, and I would say it's almost a little different on the nose compared to the previous. So let's give it our first sip. Oh, much, much, much bigger oak flavor on the palate. It's almost like there's still agave flavor there, and you can still tell it's a Reposado, but it's almost like they took that spice and vanilla and just dialed it up just a tad more compared to the previous Reposado. Really nice. So if the other previous product was 50-50 agave and barrel flavors, we're just bumping into that 55-60% barrel territory. But there's still agave flavors on this. I mean, this does not drink like an añejo, but it does noticeably drink differently than the regular Reposado, which I think is really cool. So let's revisit this. It almost like coats the palate in a more defined way. There's definitely more complexity and there's definitely more barrel flavors, but it's very enjoyable. And I would say the alcohol in this is very well integrated, not boozy at all. I would say a slightly longer finish. I mean, and again, that finish is going to be a lot more barrel forward. Again, there's flavors of agave in there, but this is no questions asked a barrel forward reposado. And again, manipulating those barrels really does kind of dial up some of those barrel flavors. And it's very interesting to see how they're living in this little space between, you have like a reposado and you have their añejo, and there's very clear aging requirements from one category to the other, or I should say like one style versus the other. And what they're doing is they're saying, we want to live in this reposado range, but we want to manipulate the flavors in interesting ways and kind of just dial up those barrel flavors. Again, Brown-Forman, very barrel forward company. It's so interesting to see how they're like creating like almost like micro manipulations with their barrel flavors, and it's done in a very skilled and interesting and strategic way. So this is very enjoyable, especially for someone like me that loves reposados. Like, this still very much lives in my kind of preferred flavor profile. You're not quite getting into the barrel bombs that you get with añejos, specialty añejos, and extra añejos, and there's still agave flavor here, but those barrel flavors, again, they're just dialed up just a bit. So all these are bottled at the same bottling proof here in the United States, 80 proof, 40% ABV, but there's a remarkable difference between these three products. So in the video I made about the three silvers, El Jimador Silver was for your kind of novice, Herradura Silver was for your more intermediate drinker, and then Herradura Blanco is for your more advanced tequila aficionado. Well, I feel like you could very much fit these three products into that same scale. El Jimador Reposado is for your kind of more entry-level novice tequila drinker. Herradura Reposado is for your more intermediate drinker. The Herradura Double Barrel Reposado is very much for your more advanced tequila aficionado. So 3 different products, 3 different price points. All right, let's talk about pricing. So in my market, the Double Barrel Reposado retails somewhere between $65 and $70. Is this worth $65 to $70? This is where I think it's completely subjective. This product is super fun and super tasty and super drinkable. You have to ask the question, is this product worth $65 to $70? Compared to the regular Reposado, which is $48 to $52, probably not. But if you're a huge fan of the brand, if money is no concern and you just want something interesting and one of your local liquor stores has a Double Barrel Reposado pick from the brand, then definitely give it a try. But if money is perhaps a concern, then just stick with the regular Reposado at $48 to $52 rather than trading up to the Double Barrel Reposado from $65 to $70. I don't think it's worth the difference of $20, but if you're a fan of the brand and money's no object, then definitely give this a try. And I do not think you'll be disappointed, but if perhaps you are looking for, I think if you're looking to optimize your purchase and you want the best bang for your buck, super premium Reposado, maybe just stick with the regular Reposado rather than trading up to the Double Barrel pick. If you want something that's new, interesting, or unique, then definitely give this product a try. I think it very much checks those boxes and will drink very enjoyable. And especially if you are, like me, someone that drinks a lot of bourbon but also drinks a lot of tequila, and you don't quite want more of a barrel bomb that you get with some of the more aged expressions like añejos, specialty añejos, or extra añejos, then this product may live in that perfect sweet spot for you where it's a little more barrel flavor, but there's still some good agave flavor in there. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe even learned something. Please give this video a like and consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified whenever I have new content on my website or this YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to my email newsletter. I'll leave a link below in the description. If you do not care about the video component of these reviews and brand educations, please consider subscribing to my podcast. It's just the audio material from these videos, and it's available on Spotify. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available anywhere you consume your podcasts. If you would like to support this channel further, please consider becoming a Patreon member or gift me a cocktail to the link below in the description. Thank you so much again for your support. If you have feedback about this video or about this channel, please leave me a comment or shoot me an email. I really value the feedback I get. I've adapted some of my video styles specifically because of some of the feedback I received. If you have a question, you can always leave me a comment, but you can also shoot me an email if you have a more detailed question. I personally read every single email that I receive, and I do my best to respond to all of them. I will leave my email below in the description. And also, if you are a supplier and you're interested in seeing one of your brands presented on this channel, please shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. Thank you so much again for watching, and as always, please drink responsibly.